Well, good day and welcome to our next lesson, lesson 53 in our study of the book of Mark. We're still in chapter 12 and today starting at verse 18. Now, if you've been following along, this all came about, this confrontation between the leaders of Israel and Jesus came about because he had overthrown the tables of the money changers in the temple. And this made the already angry leaders, the Pharisees and the Sadducees, even angrier, and they were now trying to trap Jesus in a way that would either make the people dislike him or make the Romans want to arrest him. And so they had sent, as we said in our last lesson, the Pharisees and the Herodians to visit him in a way that would either get the people upset or get the Romans upset. And the Herodians and the Pharisees, who really did not like each other because their ideas and their culture were completely different, were there in order to see if they could trap Jesus and then report him to the Roman authorities. And that did not work. So they left, and now the second group of people from the Jewish leadership came, these Sadducees. And this really is what this is about. So let me read this first part. Then came Sadducees, who say there is no resurrection, came to him. And they asked him, saying, Teacher, Moses wrote to us that if a man's brother dies and leaves his wife behind and leaves no children, his brother should take his wife and raise up offspring for his brother. Now there were 7 brothers. The first took a wife. The first was dying. He left no offspring, and the second took her, and he died, nor did he leave any offspring, and the third likewise. So the 7 had her and left no offspring. Last of all, the woman died also. Therefore, in the resurrection, when they rise, whose wife will she be? For all 7 had her as wife. This is a strange story, and particularly strange because the Sadducees did not believe in the resurrection. They were a sect of Judaism who had control of the temple. They were wealthy, they were powerful, they were influential. But unlike the Pharisees, who believed strongly in the resurrection, the Sadducees did not believe in any afterlife. They were strict adherents to the law, but they did not believe in any accountability or any resurrection or any afterlife after this life was over, which made the question to Jesus even more strange, because if they believed in no resurrection, they certainly wouldn't have any doubt about what happened to this woman and her former husbands and her offspring if there was no resurrection. Now, this idea of the husband's brother taking the husband's wife if this first person died was put back into a regulation or law back in the days of Moses, and is recorded in Deuteronomy, probably in chapter 25. And it was put there in order to ensure a continuation, a lineage of the tribal inheritance. So that if a person died without children, then that person's brother, as long as he was single and not married, could take the other person's wife and have a child and raise that child in the name of the former husband, or the first husband, or the first brother. And this way, this ensured some kind of continuation of a lineage, of a family line and tree and inheritance. And this is what this was all about. But the Sadducees were very strict Jewish people who believed only in the Torah. They believed that everything other than the Torah was not really relevant to their beliefs. They believed that everything that was of importance was in the Torah, and they did not believe, therefore, in the resurrection, even though there are multiple aspects of resurrection being talked about in other parts of the Old Testament. And many of the Psalms, for instance, have this, and it's important sort of to continue this, accept this as a way of producing evidence for this afterlife. For instance, if you go to Psalm 16, it says in the latter part of the psalm, "Therefore my heart is glad and my glory rejoices. My flesh also will rest in hope, for you will not leave my soul in Sheol, nor would you allow your Holy One to see corruption. You will show me the path of life. In your presence is fullness of joy. At your right hand are pleasures forevermore." Clearly indicating the possibility of life after this present one is over. In Psalm 49:15, so while he lives, when he dies, he'll carry nothing away. His glory shall not descend after him, though while he lives, he blesses himself. He shall go to the generation of his fathers. They shall never see light. The man who is in honor yet does not understand is like the beasts that perish. In Psalm 73, in Psalm 139, verse 8, it talks about, "If I ascend into heaven, you are there. If I make my bed in hell, behold, you are there." In other words, there is definite evidence of life after death in the Old Testament. So, these Sadducees did not believe in a life after death. They did not believe in resurrection. They did not believe in angels. They did not believe in spirits, as it states in Acts. So they have this query for Jesus: what would happen to this woman's in the afterlife, an afterlife which they did not believe in, if she had these 7 men as husbands, then she herself died. And this was a trap. This was a trap in order to try to get Jesus to understand and to make some mistake regarding what Moses had said or what the law itself stated. So Jesus answered in this way: "Are you not therefore mistaken, because you do not know the Scriptures nor the power of God?" He really confronted them. He really put it on the line. He says, you do not believe in the resurrection. You do not know the Scriptures, nor do you know the power of God, because if a God who can create the universe and create all the worlds that are present, if he can do this, he can certainly create life that goes on after the present existence. "For when they rise from the dead," he said, "they neither marry nor are given in marriage, but are like angels in heaven. They are not angels in heaven. They do not become angels in heaven, but they are like angels in heaven, in that they no longer partake in what's considered marriage or the normal family life or the normal activities that we do here on earth." It does not say that we don't recognize people or don't maybe have associations or relationships of some sort with people that we know here on earth, but it's not in a marriage type of situation. "Concerning the dead," he says, "that they rise, have you not read in the book of Moses, in the burning bush passage, how God spoke to him, saying, I am the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob?" He's putting this in the present tense. What he's saying here, Jesus is saying that God has said that I am the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, the God of Jacob. Not that I was in past tense, but I am in present tense, indicating that they are still in existence. He is still their God where they are now. Yet they continue to survive in a form beyond the earthly life. And he is saying, do you not know the scriptures? Because God said, I am the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob. And to emphasize it, Jesus then said, he is not the God of the dead, but the God of the living. You are therefore greatly mistaken. This is the whole aspect of this passage, that they were trying to trap Jesus into saying something against the law of Moses, not expecting this answer, because they themselves, although they asked about the resurrection, they asked about a resurrected life, they did not accept the resurrection because they thought it was not taught in the Torah. And Jesus is going on to say that right in the Torah, where Jesus spoke to Moses, he said, I am the God of the living. I am the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, the God of Jacob, living persons, not past tense, but present at that time. And this really destroyed the argument of the Sadducees. So this attempt to trap Jesus did not work on this occasion either. Now there were 3 attempts made by the leaders of the Jewish people. They sent the Pharisees and Herodians first, then they sent the Sadducees, and both these attempts failed. Next week we're going to see where they sent the scribes and see what happens there. But this is all for today. Thanks for watching. Bye for now. Hope to see you next week.